Is this that JPP podcast?
Have the 49ers found their new quarterback? Do the Cowboys need to make a change? The guys play their football game, Uncle Tony tries to kill our listeners, and Kevin admits that he was wrong. All that and more this week on Just Press Play.
The red wasp is excavated. Pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way, because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay. All right. I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week. I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
We are back. The JPP pod is back for another episode of a little NFL breakdown. We're missing LJ this week for this episode, but we got Uncle Tony joining us back. And Pops, what's up, guys?
No, man, not much. Happy to be here.
What's up?
Week 10. We're in double digits. The NFL season is just flying by.
Yep.
It is. We're on the back stretch. You know, I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you guys saw this just off the top, but the bettors out in the desert, out in Vegas, all the average guys like me and you did pretty dang good this week. Vegas got killed this week. Did y'all see that?
Yes, they did.
I saw something about
Apparently
it.
took a couple parlays home with them this weekend. The
main thing I was reading up on it is just the big public games. Basically, all the ones the public were favoring, just all won. Like the Vikings were a big one over the Lions. The Steelers were underdogs at the Ravens. Chiefs were 8.5 over the Browns, and they covered it, which I don't understand how the Chiefs were only an 8.5 point favorite over the Browns after they just fired all their coaches. I mean, the Chiefs have been beating everybody by over 8.5. And then the Browns, I don't know. And then the Pats covered over the Packers. Yeah. It was just Vegas got killed. Apparently they lost the Nevada industry. This is from David Purdom from ESPN, said that the Nevada industry estimated the state sportsbook lost in the range of $7 to $10 million on Sunday alone.
Wow.
Guess what?
Wow.
They'll get it back. Don't send them any checks.
They're
going to be okay.
But that is an incentive for all of you out there to get out there and go lay some money down on some games. And I know Uncle Tony's going to be shedding some knowledge on you here in a little bit. So if you're going to go bet, you got to go bet with MyBookie, because that's the presenting sponsor of the JPP. Get on MyBookie, go put in the promo code JPP, and you will get dollar for dollar match on your investment. You throw down 100, get 200. Hell, you might as well if you would have put down a 16 parlay on some of the favorites from last week, $100, make that into 600. I mean, you're looking good this week. You're a happy camper.
Happy camper.
No doubt.
So,
wished I would.
With that,
I like me some Carolina Panthers, man. I like
man.
They're pretty good to you, Tony.
Some kind of nice. They are looking really good.
That's a perfect segue into, let's go ahead. I want to jump right into the game, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with who I'm buying this week. And I know I'm a day late and a dollar short. I should have got on the train when Tony did, but man, I'm buying every bit of Panther stock I can get. They look so good. As a Christian McCaffrey owner in fantasy football, they're getting him the ball. He's looking good. Cam Newton and Norv Turner, they look good. And all of a sudden, they got a big receiver in Funches, and then DJ Moore, that first-round pick. He didn't have as big a game last week, but he's an athletic guy. Greg Olsen looks healthy, knock on wood. I mean, it looks like
knock on wood for sure.
It looks like he's okay for now. I don't know. What do you think, Tone? I mean, the Panthers just look good.
Man, yeah, and I picked them early on, and they've got a good combination going for them this year, offensively and defensively. Unlike some other linebacker, Sean Lee, who seems to be unworldly.
Breaking news! Did you see I've never seen this before, but he pulled a hamstring.
Oh my gosh! I didn't know he had one left to pull. He's pulled 32. But Luke Kuechly is on the field for the Panthers and staying healthy, so defensively it helps them. But they've got a great balance on offense right now with McCaffrey. If McCaffrey stays healthy, it gives them a very viable running game outside of Cam Newton. Greg Olsen being back now gives them something down the middle of the field. And DJ Moore, to me, this is the secret weapon. He's actually starting to learn his position and really coming into his own. Torrey Smith has been
and he's
out
just going to
for the
get
last
better and
couple of
better.
weeks, and he's really taken that mantra of that number 2 wide receiver and really moving with it. So, and Newton, they're monitoring his throwing during the week, doing a real good job of, as long as he stays healthy. I think you've got to count the Panthers in just as much as with the Rams and the Saints going down the stretch.
Well, and that's what's interesting to me is everyone talks about the Rams and Saints, rightfully so. They're the class of the NFC, but the Panthers are right there at 6-2 or 7-2. They're one game back from the Saints. 17. They could end up winning that division, and it wouldn't be that big of a shocker.
They're sneaky.
And I'm with you. I just think when you see a receiver like that, rookie receiver, it sometimes takes a little while to get going. And now it looks like he's learning the offense a little bit. And Cam Newton's always been good. He's had Ted Ginn. He made him look pretty good a few years back. You give him a little speedy receiver, and he's not bad. And then we said it last week, Cam Newton is also just an abnormal quarterback. He's 6'6", runs a 4.4, 250. He's like Ben Roethlisberger, except for with a 4.4 speed. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
So they got, by the way, speaking of Big Ben, that's a big matchup this week with Carolina. They'll be going, I think, at Pittsburgh on Thursday night. So that'll be a big test for them. I'll be interested to see that game. So, Dad, who do you got? Who are you buying this week?
Well, I'm buying a person this week, and I think I'm buying him cheap still, but damn, Nick Mullins of San Francisco, did he play a hell of a game last week?
Didn't even know who the guy's name was, and all of a sudden he's just slinging it.
I know a little bit about him now. You know where he went to college, Southern Miss. Got a little call from Brett Favre after the game. He broke, by the way, all of Brett Favre's records at Southern Miss. I did a little looking up on old Mr. Mullen. Mullins threw for 11,994 yards and 87 TDs at Southern Miss. He broke Mr. Favre's record of 7,695 and 52 TDs. I'm telling you, he pooped all over Brett Favre's records at Southern Miss.
7,000 to 11,000, yeah. I think he blew on past it.
He blew on past him. Interestingly enough, he's from the great state of Alabama, and he went to Hoover, Alabama. Spain Park was the player of the year there in Alabama, but wound up going to Southern Miss after, I think it was Alabama Birmingham. Something happened there. So he obviously wasn't Division I material, but something
Alabama
happened
Birmingham
at Alabama
dropped their
Birmingham.
football program, didn't they?
Maybe that's what it was. They dropped their football program. And he wound up going to Southern Miss.
I got to go.
At that point, you got to look for a job, I think.
One last little old thing. As a senior at Spain Park High School in Hoover, Alabama, he threw for 3,600 yards, 40 TDs, and 7 interceptions. So the guy's got some skills. And I think he earned the second start. I believe he's supposed to start on Monday night against the Giants.
Against another poor defense. I did want to ask you guys a little bit on Mullins. Now, he was great, but was it more of a Nick Mullins, or was it more of just the Raiders offense, or the whole team basically has mailed it in for the rest of this year, as John Gruden already has?
I think you're right. I think Oakland has mailed it in. But I did watch some of that game, and Mullins looked sharp. I mean, his passes were sharp. He was making the right reads. He looked sharp. Yes, I think it was a product of a team that is probably mailing it into Vegas.
If you're just in fantasy football, go look for the quarterback playing the Raiders, or just anybody playing the Raiders going forward.
Yeah, wherever you are in fantasy football, you're looking for 3 teams. You're looking for the Cardinals, you're looking for the Raiders, and now apparently you're looking for Cleveland. So, which is, hey, all's right with the world when you're looking for Cleveland. So that's good. But yeah, you're looking for those 2 matchups and the Buccaneers. I'm sorry, I would hate to leave out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So speaking of the Buccaneers, interesting you brought up Mullins at Mississippi State. You know that who his head coach was back at Southern Miss was old Todd Monken, who's the offensive coordinator at the Bucs, who's kind of maybe the next hotshot head coach coming up, because he was there at Ole Miss when Mullins set all those records, and then he went to Buccaneers, which, say what you will about the Bucs, and I think Dirk Cutter is gone maybe the day after the NFL season ends. But that offense has looked great with different quarterback every week. Well, so it's just interesting.
I can tell you, I'm on the lookout for a new hot coach for my favorite professional team in football.
We'll get on to the team that resides in Dallas.
I'll hold on.
I don't even know if I'll say their team name. The team that plays in Dallas.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, hold it back.
that I don't know how to segue from that because I don't think there's any way that Uncle Tony's buying that team. So, Tony, who do you got? Who you buying this week?
Well, before I get to my buy on Mr. Mullins, here's your prediction. Yeah. I think San Francisco trades Mullins and a second round pick to Tampa for their first round in 2019 because neither one of those guys are working out for him down there. And I think you're right. That'd be a good pick because there's no way San Francisco can him, Beathard, and Jimmy Garoppolo. They got way too much money. So Mr. Mullins is playing for a spot next year. He'll continue.
Sure, I like that. So, I like that. That's interesting.
Or the New York Football Giants. Let's see how he shreds it. We may see like, hey, that's your team next year, big guy. We'll see.
Right. That's what Kyle Shanahan needs to go ahead and do as much as he can with Nick Mullins now to just try to get that stock as high as possible.
No, I like that. Absolutely. So I'm buying, and I don't know if I can do this or not because, I'm flip-flopping, but, I've been known. Hot Atlanta, buying the Falcons.
Hot Atlanta, the team you crossed off a few weeks back.
Huge win this week.
Let's see. You crossed Atlanta off as no way they're making the playoffs, and now you're buying.
Yeah, I'm back. Okay. I'm back. Okay. Because, I thought I'd go out there and get on the edge because, LJ would want me to do that. So I think, Atlanta proved something this weekend, going on the road, beating a team with a pretty tough defense. I still think the Redskins are in the playoffs. I'm not backing off of that. But Atlanta proved something going on the road and winning that game by
boy, and they didn't just beat them. They beat them.
Beat him, and Julio actually scored. So,
it only took 10 weeks to get maybe the best receiver in football.
340 days, I think I heard something like that. 340, something like that. But it was a fluke. The guy missed a tackle. He just kind of flopped in there. But anyway, I'm going with Atlanta. I'm going back to where I thought I was at the very, very end of the beginning of the season before everything started. The NFC South has the best teams in it. So I think you're looking at Saints, Carolina, and Atlanta making the playoffs out of that one division, and everybody else will shut out because I don't see the Packers making it. I don't see the Bears making it. Certainly nobody in the West making it other than the Rams. We'll see. Seattle does have a shot. I think it's between Seattle and Atlanta, and I'm going to buy Atlanta.
Well, and that's I thought about Atlanta too, but that's my only issue is that division they play, and they still going to have to go. I was looking at their schedule. They're still going to have to go at the Panthers at some point, at the Saints, at the Packers. They'll play the Ravens. The only problem is with how they started the year.
Yeah, it looks like the Packers was a tough game, but I don't know anybody's get scared of the Packers right now.
That's the only, but it's just that start of the year since they put themselves in that hole. Now they gotta they need to win. No, they can only lose maybe two more.
I'm a gambling man,
but I tell you what, I need to just go ahead. I kind of thought that Matt Ryan MVP season was a little bit of, for some reason, I've had a hard time buying into Matt Ryan. I've always thought it was just great. He has Julio and he's good, but not great. And he probably deserves to be in that top tier echelon. Maybe not Brady Rodgers, but right there below him because he is balling all year this year. That defense is the problem.
Yeah. He's no Tony Romo.
Well, yeah, true. Clearly. All right. That gets us on to who we thought they were of the week. And Pops, I want to start off with you. Who is this week's who we thought they were for you?
Well, do you want to go positive or negative? Pick one because I've got two guys.
I want to go positive.
All right. Well, if I'm going to go positive, we've already brought
because I'm going to be negative. I don't want to be all negative. So.
All right. Well, if I'm going to go positive, it's Christian McCaffrey. I'm telling you, this kid is a baller. That. And that little, they kept talking about the little hop, the hurdle he did, but he didn't lose a beat. I mean, he is a serious athlete. I think he's a pretty all around good guy. He's got great hands, great speed, great balance. He kind of just shuts up and plays. I don't hear a lot of hullabaloo. If that's the word. I'm trying to think of that George Plimpton word in Good Will Hunting, what he says, no snipper snapper or whatever. No, I know that was terrible. But anyway, Christian McCaffrey,
what?
He's a good rushing the ball. He can receive the ball. He makes that offense go for Carolina, which we all seem to be on. So
that play he had down the sideline where he got, I don't know if he scored, but he got almost there and stayed in bounds. He's just good, and it seems like Norv Turner is finding ways to get him the ball. Whether he can run between the tackles, he can catch. I agree with you. I like him.
only concern for McCaffrey is these next 3 weeks are going to be critical for him. I just don't see them being able to continue to give him the amount of touches that they're giving and him staying healthy. He's just not that big a back. It's kind of been the knock against him. It's just his second year in the league, but as a second year guy, you still can kind of hit that wall around week 13, week 14,
right.
Really kind of get there, and that's when you get hurt. So they really gave him the ball this past weekend. You really showed how much they used him, and that's what Norv Turner does. And they said from the beginning he's going to be our bell cow back. That's the way we're going to use it. But I'm really concerned. This is this week 10, 11, 12. These are the real crucial weeks to make sure he doesn't get hurt because he is critical to their offense. And I agree with that.
I believe so.
Right. I do. I agree. I think that's something to worry about. And I think they are worried about that. And they do have CJ Anderson as a backup there. I think you'll see his touches decrease. If they're smart, you'll see his touches decrease just because, I mean, you're right. He's not a huge big back that you give the ball.
He's 5'11", 205 maybe.
He did get bigger over. One thing I liked about him is the big issue he had last year was he had a hard time running between the tackles because he was a little smaller, and he put on some weight and he's not big by any means, but he put on a little weight and kind of got better at running between the tackles, and he's doing a good job. It'll be interesting to see if he can hold up through the season.
Yeah, real quick, you mentioned CJ Anderson. I just want to put a shout out there to LJ that to hang in there, man. Get your direct ticket. You'll be able to watch the Broncos all weekend long because all these former Broncos are going to be playing for all these other teams. He's going to be watching all the Broncos he wants here in a little bit.
All the former Broncos seem to be winning. It's all the current Broncos that seem to have the problem.
They're going to be all over the place.
All right, Uncle Tony, who you got? Who is who you thought they were this week?
Okay, so I got a question. I'm always going to have a question on this. Do we have to stay in the NFL?
I don't know. I kind of like where you're going. Let's see what you got.
And I'm kind of, I'm really starting to get into Scott Van Pelt. I used to not like him, but now I kind of like OSVP. And I don't know if y'all saw that piece they did on Bobby fucking Petrino last night. It was just awesome. They lost 77-12.
Clemson was beating a nicer guy. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy.
And so Petrino's quote was, "Well, at least we competed." Competed? What? At least I haven't heard Chad Morris say we competed. No, you didn't compete. And so they kind of went through a timeline, and, he has strung Louisville out to dry. He has put one in hard and deep. They can't get rid of him because he costs too much.
Nick Brace Petrino.
Talks too much. Bobby effing Petrino has really taken it to Louisville, and he is who he thought he was. So that was a very interesting story. And here's to Bobby Petrino's lawyer, but that guy is an asshole, and I'm glad he's not the coach of the Razorbacks.
Well, and it was fun to see. You're totally right. I think at one point I just got on. I wasn't home yet. I was going to go. I was on my way home. I was about to watch some college football, so I was pulling up my phone to kind of see some of the scores for the first round games. And it was like into the first quarter, Clemson was up 42-0 or something insane. I was like, oh my God. And like Dad said, couldn't happen to a nicer guy, of course.
How do you know you didn't prepare for this game? 42-0. That's how you know.
And then I loved it because, like you said, then all this stuff came up about him in Atlanta before. And of course, I did kind of like him at Arkansas for a little bit there because he seemed to be winning. But you saw the way he left Atlanta after that Monday night game where they got trounced, I think, by the Saints or something. And then he goes on. I was reading this thing about him. Apparently, in the locker room, he preaches to the players how you need to figure out if you're going to buy into this team or not. And he was just ripped into him. And look in the mirror. And then the next day they get to the locker room, and he doesn't even say bye to him. He leaves a printed note that says he's taking the job at Arkansas.
So
I just think he's a scumbag as a person.
Yeah. So here's something I did know, and this is a small thing, but think about this. Okay, the notes that he left, they were laminated. So think about that. I'm leaving you a laminated note. I took the time to tell somebody, hey, will you laminate these? Because I don't want them crumbling these things up and throwing them away. I want them to keep them. I want them to see. They were laminated notes. Hilarious.
And then I think they crossed out where he signed his name Petrino at the bottom. Apparently the players crossed out on all the notes left in the locker room and put like coward and different stuff across them. It was great.
I bet they put more than coward.
Yeah, well, that's the suitable for work language.
That's my guy for the week.
All right, well,
good one. I like it.
My who we thought they were for this week, and let's go ahead. I knew we were going to get into him at some point, and it will be the Dallas Cowboys and Mr. Jason Garrett. My goodness, did you see that abysmal showing? Just that embarrassment they put on national TV in front of God and everybody.
After an off week. After an off week.
They had did you see? Well, Jason Garrett was spending his off week really getting ready. He was at the World Series, he was watching some games in LA. Just exactly what a team that's 4-4 needs to get something figured out, or 3-4 and needs to figure something out in a meddling division. It was just embarrassing. They go down there and it just was. And then the worst thing is the Monday Night Crew finally started, and I know Tony wants to mention something on the Monday Night Crew, but they started finally highlighting the issues with Garrett and Linehan, and it was in front of everybody, is they just do the same thing. They run the ball right up the middle on first down, and then they try to throw it on second down, they incomplete or something, and then they run a screen on third down. It's like every time. And the defense knows it too. They're so predictable. And this is Des Bryant said it week 1. He said that Linehan runs a predictable offense. And I know Des Bryant might not be the guy I go to as a football savant, but he's right. He's right. They don't have any creativity. And then the dumb thing they do is like we talk about how McVay's so smart. He goes to the Rams and he gets Jared Goff and figures out Jared Goff wasn't working week 1, so let's do what he does best. Let's figure out what he's good at, and let's run that. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott clearly runs that Mississippi State offense where they run a little spread, some reads, get a little creative. That's what he runs best. But no, we're going to line up I form, run Linehan's offense, run it up the middle, no creativity, no nothing. Yeah. And then they get guys like La'el Collins, who's a great left guard, and they got to steal in the draft, but we're going to put him at right tackle and put this Connor Williams at left guard, who's just been getting smoked all year. That coaching staff has got to go.
Got to go.
I agree.
Yeah. So here, Kevin, I'll pile on to that before I get to Jason Witten. But, one of the things you're absolutely right. What they did is they got lazy, and they got lazy in the fact we talked about character 2 or 3 times on this podcast, and they got used to the fact that they drafted a huge offensive line. And for 3 or 4 years, it didn't matter what they called because they had an advantage on that line of scrimmage. And so they got lazy. Jason Garrett got lazy and said, hey, I can hand this ball off and behind this big line and things go. And the reason they went 13-3 that 1 year, they had a tremendous advantage on the line of scrimmage. They don't have that now. They've got some injuries. Guess what? Now you got a coach, motherfucker. Go out there and do something. But he can't do it.
There it is.
Well, we ought to be winning the line of scrimmage. We ought to be winning the line of scrimmage. Hey, man, are you done with that bong? Get that over here. It's terrible. It's just terrible. And I've said this before. If you took the pressure off of Jason Garrett of being the head coach, he's just shocked. And I believe he is token before he gets the game. That you can't get eyes that red and that watery. He's either allergic to artificial turf, or somebody is blowing smoke at the sidelines, or he's stoned. And if you ask me, after watching the Cowboys for the last 3 weeks, he's fucking stoned. And so,
well, that's why he's never upset about the things that go wrong. He's always in a good mood because he's just high as a kite there. He
can't get out of himself because of the pressure he's under. He can't take it. He's just not a head coach. He's not a head coach. Got to go.
Well, and I don't know.
Could not agree more with that. Could not agree more. It's so hard to be a Dallas Cowboy fan. And by the way, we talked about leaving a game early in the last pod. Yeah. I would be leaving some of these Dallas games early because they just suck. They're horrible to watch. And the only time the offense got any decent at all was when it had 2.5 minutes left, and they're
every time the same thing happening against the Redskins
at the end of the game. They let him wing it a little bit, and we can move the ball. The rest of the time, it's whatever you just described. It's exactly that: run it into the line, pass on second down, screen on third, punt the ball. That's the offense.
And if that doesn't scream coaching, so the offense is really good. It starts moving the ball as soon as you take the coaching out of it and let Dak and that offense just play. When the coaching's calling the plays and they're huddling, it just looks like they're running in mud. And now we get the Cowboys' upcoming schedule. Let's look at it. We got at Philadelphia, the defending champs who are coming off a bye. At Atlanta, who we just talked about, is looking good right now. Versus Washington, who's already beat them. New Orleans, Philadelphia again. I mean, it is going to be rough. So the good thing, let's lose out and we can tank. And oh wait, We traded our first round pick. We don't have a first round pick. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It is just
the only
it's rough
chance we
sledding.
have of winning. The only chance we have of winning a game in the next 6 ones we play is on Thanksgiving. If we can find Clint Longley somewhere out there running his car washes or whatever he does now, and bring him back for the Thanksgiving game so he can throw 4 touchdown passes against the Redskins, we got a shot. Otherwise, we're over for the next month and a half.
All right, I hate to lob one more up for Tony here, but I don't even know. And I like this guy, of course. I think I'm probably going to talk about Sean Lee. I didn't even see him in the game. The first time I see him in the game, he's pulling up, grabbing his hammy.
Yeah.
And I love the guy, but he cannot play. What does Herm Edwards say? What's the best ability? Availability.
Preach.
And he's never available. And I love him, but it just
So, Liff, if you didn't watch the game all the way through, I watched the game because, I go to mybookie.ag and I put money on this one. I had a lot of money on the Titans and I had a lot them on the Titans.
Smart man.
And the over. And
the Titans were getting like 7 points or something, right?
I got them at 4. I got them 4.5. They ended up at 5.5. So,
oh God.
But anyway, so I watched the whole game, and Sean Lee is running around. He's trying to catch up. He's doing okay, and it is comical a little bit. I hate it for the guy because he's a warrior.
He's a good player.
Coach someday. He ought to be a coach of the Cowboys. But anyway, he turns to run, and it's like somebody shot him with a BB gun. He's like, "Pow!" And he's like, "Oh!" And he grabs the top of his ass. It was just bad. He's kind of limping along, and everybody knew what happened. There goes that 34th hamstring. He's done.
He's just hamstrung. Sean Lee's just hamstrung.
It's time to go. Sometimes you got to know.
Well, and that's the thing I hate.
Got to go.
I love Sean Lee. Like Dad said, I think he's a good player. I think he's smart. Like you said, Tony, he'll probably be in coaching at some point. But you just can't keep paying a guy money who can't be on the field. And I think you saw with Dallas, and this is my last point, we can move on. But you saw that defense look great coming out. And I think there actually is a lot of talent on the defense. I think they're pretty good. But it's like what you saw with the Broncos last year, like LJ's brought up before, and you see it with the Jaguars some this year. You get tired of holding strong when the offense just goes 1, 2, 3 punt, 1, 2, 3 punt, 1, 2, 3 punt every single time. You get tired of playing your ass off over and over again. So I think,
well, Kevin, although I can appreciate you trying to find something positive in the Cowboys' efforts last night, understand that the Tennessee Titans has one of the worst offenses in the league. That over-under was 40.5. It's not because those were two tremendous defenses out there. It's because their offenses sucked ass. And for Dallas to give up that many points to the Tennessee Titans, I mean, geez, they made Corey Davis look like Odell Beckham Jr. Corey Davis is out there snapping balls out of the air. He's making 20 yards. It's like
Mariota hasn't been good all year, and he was slinging the ball over the field.
I needed 24 points from Dion Lewis last night in a fantasy league. He got 24.2. He killed him. Thank you very much, Dion Lewis. Your gift is in the mail, by the way. But it's just ridiculous how they can't perform at any level of the game. Can't do it. Their punter, 35-yard line, the punter kicked it into the fucking end zone. He can't even cough and corner the kick. Okay, what's next on this podcast?
Yeah, next. Yeah, we got to get off the Cowboys.
Perfect segue to. Oh yeah. Let's. You had a Jason Witten comment. We've commented on the Monday Night Football crew. So
okay. There's a new game out there, and it's called. It's a Jason Witten drinking game. You know how if you watch Bob Newhart, every time they say Bob, you got to take a drink. So the thing with
that might have been a little before his time.
I was about to say I don't know that, but you're showing
what else. There's some.
Well, there's a drinking game in the Super Bowl. Every time you see like Peyton Manning's that red mark on his forehead, you have to drink every time.
This is better. Okay, so
this is better.
So the drinking game is for Jason Witten. Every time he says the word situation, and so every time he says the word situation, you got to take a drink. He said situation last night 164 times.
Really? So I haven't noticed that he says that.
164 times. And I turned the sound up in like the third or fourth quarter because our buddies are texting us, and shout out to Bob Johnson, who probably has the largest liver of any man living. He's out there going, "Hey man, you got to do this drinking game." And so all of a sudden, I started listening. I'll be damned. It's like every 20, 30th word. Well, this is a tough situation for them. This is a critical situation for the quarterback. The defensive line has got to take care of the situation. Dude, I get it, but man, come on, man.
Now,
figure out another.
Now I'm listening. Now I'll be listening next Monday. I might be a little hungover Tuesday morning, but
yeah. So I'm going to be hopeful that there's actually 3 digits worth of people that listen to our podcast, 990 something. So for all you people out there, hey man, do the drinking game. Get yourself in a safe place. Get your home. Make sure you got your Uber or something. Got your friends around you. Every time Jason Wentz says situation, you got to take a drink. I suggest beer.
I love
164 shots. You're not.
It's gonna get a little out of hand.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Please do not try this at home. 20 shots over 4 hours would kill a 180-pound man, meaning if you and your 7 closest friends take turns playing this game, there would have been 8 corpses and 4 shots left in the room last Monday night.
All right, so on from the I love the drinking game. On from the Cowboys. On to, speaking of teams that will not make the playoffs and not looking so hot, I'm going to go with my team that will not make the playoffs. Next team I'm crossing off. Is it okay? Tony kind of wavered by buying on Atlanta Falcons after crossing them off. So can I waver on, ever since I bought the Lions, my God, they are terrible. Poor Matt Stafford got sacked 10 times last week. And I just don't understand it. 2 weeks ago, I was buying them. It was kind of after a lot of the stuff Tony was saying. I think they're a tough team. There's some talent around there. And then they trade for Snacks Harrison, that big old defensive tackle from the Giants. So I thought, okay, that's something they need. And then a week later, it looks like they just all but punted on the season. They trade Golden Tate. Clearly, he was important to that offense because Matt Stafford didn't know what to do with the ball, and they didn't block a soul. And then the defense is bad. The Lions just suck, and it looks like the team's kind of quit on them now that they traded Tate. I don't know.
By the way, to climb on that a little, did you see the Matt Patricia get on the
reporter for slouching?
Didn't see it.
Yeah, Matt Patricia's looks like an unmade bed, for God's sake, and he's going to get on somebody else for the way their appearance.
Yeah, so
STFU, Matt Patricia.
So
Jeez.
Tony, if you didn't see this, apparently the reporter asked him a question, very valid question, something about Kerryon Johnson or whatnot, and he was just like, he tried. It's one of those Bill Belichick disciples trying to be Bill Belichick. He's trying to be kind of like hard in the press. He was like, can you sit up when you're talking to me? Well, I don't know why you're slouching. At least give off a good presentation if you're going to be during this press conference. And my dad said,
have you looked in the mirror?
Yeah. I mean,
he's got this scruffy beard, this hat on backwards.
Hey,
his pencil with his laminated is his pencil, but he also has a laminated playbook, so he can't write on it.
What are you doing with that? I mean, God,
it's just Bill Belichick. Those guys,
he's going to get at IHOP.
Those guys try to be Bill Belichick, and it's just go be your coach. Don't go try to be Bill Belichick. I'm with you, Dad.
Yeah. So I got this trivia question given to me this weekend by the Fantasy Gurus Prestige Worldwide.
Okay,
who has more quarterback ones this year? Quarterback one rankings this year in fantasy football: Matt Stafford or Nicky Mullins? Which one?
Is it Nicky Mullins?
It's Nicky Mullins. Nicky Mullins in one state has been a quarterback one more times than Matt Stafford in 2018. That's crazy.
And let me think. How many times has Mullins started?
Once. He was on the practice squad. He started the year out on the practice squad.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Shout out there. That's a stat where you're pulling out. So you put the kibosh on them there, Kevin. I appreciate you picking them for the playoffs the other week because all of a sudden I said early in the year that if you're on mybookie.ag, one of the greatest places to play, or place your bets for football. Anytime you see a plus by the Detroit, you take them. These guys all of a sudden got to be a darling, and all of a sudden you started seeing minuses, and they have sucked. They're just not that team. Next week we'll get back to, and they'll be my we are who they thought they were when they get to be a home dog, and we can bet on them, and they'll win, they'll cover the spread. But for right now, you're absolutely right. There's no way they're making.
All right. So, Dad, who you got? Who is not making the playoffs for you?
Well, it was between two teams. Detroit was one of them, but I'm going to go with the other one. And I'm going to go, and I'm sorry, LJ, I'm going with the Denver Broncos. And as much as anything, I'm going for them because they're in that division or that conference with the LA Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
And so there's only going to be one wild card coming out of there. And there will be a wild card. I think both of those teams are going to make the playoffs, in my opinion. There will not be a third from that division. So that leaves Denver holding the bag. They're going to be sitting there with Arizona at home doing nothing. That's what they're going to be doing.
In that game, Denver. I don't understand them. So they right before half, instead of trying, there's like 50 seconds left, and the other team and Texans have 2 timeouts, and they try a 61-yarder, which I don't understand. Missed it, so then Texans have a short field, end up getting points before half, and then at the end of the game, they get like to I know it was long. I forget where McManus got to, but they got to where 51. It's about a 58, 51. Okay, 51. And they could have tried to at least take some shots to get a little closer.
They kind of settled for it.
Yeah, they decided, and I know they're in Mile High where kicks kind of go longer, but still, why not try to make the kick easier? It just makes no sense to settle for a 50-yarder when you can maybe try to get a 30 or 40.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and I really like the Broncos. I think trading Thomas it's something you had to do. I get it.
But, I get that.
You know what? They have lost some really tough games. That's not going to help you when you start negotiating your contract, Vance Joseph, by the way. I just want to put that out there. But just ask Jason Garrett. He's losing these close games, but they're playing really hard. This is like the second game that they've lost on the last play of the game.
And they've played the Chiefs as well as anybody this year, twice.
They've got a really good defense, and it's a younger defense. Von Miller's mid, he's probably where he needs to be. He's still got 2 or 3 years at that prime level left. And so they've got a chance to get it back together. There's a big knock on Case Keenum, but I don't think it's Case Keenum's issue. It's just that they're losing some close games. And unfortunately, a lot of times they look to the coach for that. But Liffer's right. The Chargers went up and won a huge game at Seattle. That really told me something. They were going to be one of my buys this week, but I'll wait. But they're still, that was a big game for them, but that really put the Broncos pretty much out of reach for the playoffs.
Yeah, and you bring up Vance Joseph. I know LJ, if he was here, he has a thing about giving up on coaches too early, and I get it, but I think Vance Joseph may get the axe. And did you see Bill O'Brien after the game? He denies this, but there's a video of him after the game, after they win, and he says, you can read his lips, and you don't hear audio, but his lips read, "Thanks, Vance, you effing idiot," after he misses that field goal. And he swears he didn't say that, but I'll show you on the video. I swear, it's clear. He says, "Thanks, Vance, you effing idiot." And then as he's walking off the field.
Bitch, man.
Yeah, it does come back around.
Hey, Houston, everybody all of a sudden's on a Houston battle. I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, but man, Houston is not a lock for the playoffs. Yeah, they may have won 6 in a row, but they are not. They are still not a lock. They can roll off 5 or 6 losses in a row and be done. And so
Houston, you're right. Houston's interesting to me because at the end of the year, it comes down to you got to win the games that are losable games, and they have so far. And then hopefully they get hot if you're a Texans fan. But it's like they could easily be 4-6 right now, and it wouldn't be that shocking.
Easily 2 and anyway, I'll get off of that.
So, who is a team, Tony? Let's get to you. We haven't got to you yet. Who's a team that you are not making the playoffs this year?
Okay, so I'm gonna make a reach here, and it's someone I think that Liff has bought. I think the weekend that I bought the Redskins, he bought this team, but after the Steelers took him out at home, I'm going to say the Ravens are now out of the playoffs.
Well, interestingly, I heard some people talking bad about Harbaugh.
They've got a good team, but you know what? If you can't beat the Steelers, that was a very important game for them coming down the stretch. Because
no doubt.
They're fighting for the wild card rather than making Steelers fight for the wild card, and they're staring at the Chargers. Just drew a blank. They're staring at a couple of teams to try to get that AFC wild card, including the Tennessee Titans. So it's gonna be a tough road for them now with that, unless Le'Veon Bell comes in and blows up the Steelers. I don't think that he will, but I think that
the Bengals in that same division are
Bengals.
Good.
Yeah, AJ Green's out for a couple of weeks for them. That's a really big blow to the Bengals. But I think that
Flacco's just
that's
been
the
playing
problem.
poorly.
Flacco's just it's time to move on. I think.
Yeah, he started the year. They started the year really hot. They had their long pass game was really on. John Brown was the talk of the league.
Right.
Sickle cell. What's that? Nobody knew what sickle cell was anymore. Apparently, you don't have it at Baltimore. And so John Brown is just killing everybody. Mike Wallace is all of a sudden, why didn't I draft him? Geez, what a terrible fantasy football decision that was. But now all of a sudden they've kind of come back down to ground. Flacco's struggling. They're really trying to use Lamar Jackson probably a little too much and trying to be a little bit gimmicky.
They should just put him at quarterback. I think they should take
where they need to be.
Flacco's just not that good. And I heard some people crazy. I think that some Baltimore fans are kind of claiming for Harbaugh maybe should lose his job. And as a Cowboy fan, and we've mentioned this before,
I got a place for him in Dallas.
I got a
place for John Harbaugh.
I got a seat for him. I like him.
Hey, let's pull a trade, man. Let's just get rid of all of our draft picks. Shit, whatever we got left in 2019, send them to Baltimore and let's trade for Harbaugh. Bring him in. I'm fine with that.
I'd take John Harbaugh as my coach every day.
In a second.
In a second.
Yeah,
it's interesting you go that route for your playoffs, and I get it. And I think the main thing is you're right. It's good after losing that game. There's two teams ahead of them in their own division that are going to be tough to catch.
Yeah, it's tough.
Tough
to catch. Yeah.
But the only thing is I'd be scared to cross off Harbaugh because they've done this before. Get hot when it gets cold, and their defense is I think the best defense in the NFL. It's just
that's true.
Boy, Flacco's tough. Flacco and that offense.
Kevin, I can't leave that though. Did Ben Roethlisberger throw for like 270 yards against what you just called as the best defense?
He did after. Did you also see? I think he might be the best quarter. I think Ben Roethlisberger's undefeated in games where he dies on the field, but then still is able to return. Good Lord, he looked like it was over for him. They had the cameras on him. The announcers are saying he might be done for the year. The trainers are all over him, and then he goes out one play, and then he's back.
Hey,
I
will say this: he was in a fetal position. That's all I gotta say. He was.
He looked like he died. He looked like it was over. Yeah. His career might be over, and then it was one play, and he's back out there. And I'm not LJ. LJ's the one that hates Ben Roethlisberger. I hate his injury stuff. He just is the biggest diva at quarterback ever. Yeah. But he's when all said and done, he's not bad. He finds a way.
Haters be hating. What you gonna do?
Speaking of good quarterbacks, let's real quick before we get out of here, the big game of the week, and we talked about it, the class of the NFC probably. What did you learn? I'll start with you, Dad. What did you learn on that Rams-Saints game? Did you learn more about the Saints or the Rams?
Well, it sure looked like the Saints exposed that Rams defense. It looks like Marcus Peters got exposed. Completely.
I don't know how good is Michael Thomas or how bad is Marcus Peters. It might have been a combination of the two.
Well, a little combination of both, but the one where he got burned so badly, I mean, he obviously wasn't prepared. I don't know what was going on while they weren't ready for the snap. I think the old wily veteran Drew Brees did what he does with Sean Payton. And I think they exposed that defense. If Aaron Donald's not getting pressure up the middle, they're in trouble. And I think they've got a better defense than that. Don't get me wrong, but I've really been shocked. I thought Marcus Peters was one of the better corners in the NFL at the first of the season, and he's just not lately. So that's what I kind of got out of it, is the exposure of the LA Rams defense.
Well, I think on that point, I think that win was bigger for that game is bigger for the Saints than it is the Rams, probably, because I think the Saints really want to get that home field advantage and really want to play in the dome. That Superdome is a hard place to play, and it's clear that they just play better in the dome and when they can control the weather and on the turf. But it shows to me, I really liked how the Rams, after, like you said, they got blown out of that first half. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. The pick at the end of the first half, and then the Saints get more points to pile on. And then for them to kind of come back, and I said it earlier in the week in golf, or earlier in the year, and golf's making me put my foot all the way in my mouth. While I do think Sean McVay would be successful at the Cowboys, Dak is nowhere near Jared Goff. I'm sorry. I apologize. Goff was making some throws where his receivers were dropping some throws that he just was putting on the money. That guy can play.
On the money.
There was one where there were double coverage, and he put it where the perfect spot, and his receiver just dropped it. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, I think that defense gets better when Talib comes back. I did like Peters was
They're
awful.
missing Talib.
Yeah. Peters was awful, but he did own it afterwards. Like, they asked him after the game, and he was just like, I've been sucking. I've been terrible the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I'll get better. And he's talented, but he does blow some terrible coverage. What do you say? What do you think, Tony?
And I'll say this, and you're absolutely right. But what I drew out of that game is that they probably are. I think you got to throw Carolina in the mix. That was two of the best teams in the NFL right there that were playing. Mm-hmm. It's at home, so the Saints got that lead. But I tell you what, the character of the Rams to score 21 unanswered, I believe it was 21 unanswered.
Yeah.
After being down that far on the road in a hostile environment. I know Dr. Liff has been in the Superdome before, and he knows what kind of environment that is. And, but it's something else. And for them to come back and score 21 unanswered, that told me something.
And really make that a game.
That was it. It's going to be tough. And I'll say this from a fantasy standpoint, all the folks out there loved that the Saints win because that probably keeps both of those teams playing through week 16. And so all of those stars, Kamara,
Gurley,
Goff, Breeze, all are probably going to have to play through week 16, which is a blessing for all the fantasy
That was
players
the real winner
really
of that game was fantasy owners out there. That was the winner of that game. You were totally right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The big winners were fantasy owners because, both those teams are going to come down the stretch with one loss or two losses. And with Carolina hanging, if Carolina can hang right with them, that's a big bonus for everybody.
I'll tell you what, I'll sign up right now for a rematch of that game in the playoffs.
Me too.
I was going to say. I like the Panthers, but I'll sign up for a rematch of that in the NFC Championship. No doubt. Now.
Yep. No doubt.
So the other game, real quick, as we head out of here, the other big one, which was the Battle of the Goats down there in Foxborough, where the Packers were taking on New England, and New England kind of it was semi-close for a little while, and then New England pulled away. Are the Packers, did you learn more that the Packers are done, or is New England legit as an AFC contender and right there with the Chiefs? Tony?
Well, to me, I learned more that the Packers are done. I mean, there was one goat and there was one goat roast. And the goat roast definitely happened on the Packers side. That was really a disappointing effort by the Packers and the Packers offense. And it's not Aaron Rodgers' fault to say that at the very least, the guy is one of the greatest quarterbacks of this generation of quarterbacks. There's no doubt about that. But he is not the same quarterback that he is when he's got some talent around him. And they've got a much more balanced, dynamic offense. And it just was unfortunate that game wasn't a little bit better than we wanted it to be. That was not a contest. Yeah,
while the Rams Saints lived up to exactly what we were hoping, the Packers Patriots was not quite. What'd you think, Dad?
Well, I hate to pile on Mike McCarthy, but I really kind of think that the Packers just don't have the coaching staff that the Patriots have.
Yeah, totally agree.
And they don't have the scheme. They haven't put the play. I mean, you look at Tom Brady can win with not great receivers. And I'd say Devontae Adams at the Green Bay Packers is one of the better receivers.
Yeah, he's become one of the top tier for sure.
He's a star. And good God, that other guy, the three-name guy, Marcus Scantling, Valdez, whatever.
Scantling.
My MVS. Lord, he was playing out of his mind.
That's the next
that's the next guy. But I don't think McCarthy can am I saying it right? McCarthy, right?
McCarthy,
Is it McCarthy? Yeah, I just don't think he can scheme. I don't think he can scheme with Belichick. And
that's what I got. I saw the same thing. I saw more so where Tom Brady. It wasn't a battle of the ghosts because I think you still think both those quarterbacks are really good, and I didn't lose anything from Tom or lose anything on Aaron Rodgers. It was more so while as good as Brady is, Bill Belichick undressed McCarthy on primetime TV. I mean, it was just they find ways to make guys successful. That's what those good teams do is they find, like you saw the Patriots with Cordero Patterson. He can't figure out at receiver, but he's good with the ball. If you get the ball in his hands in space, he's good. Oh, let's put him at running back. He's just good with the ball in his hand. All of a sudden, he looks like a big back and he's running hard. Like he looked great at running back.
Yeah,
he looked fantastic. He looks like he should have been playing RB all these years.
The Patriots are good about finding a way to. I'm not saying he's a stud, but find a way to get the most out of your guys. When you have the Packers, who I know we've been giving some grief to old Jim McGee on drafting Jimmy Graham, but it comes down to the Packers just make your guy successful. What does he do best? Let's figure out a way to do it. And they just kind of go, Aaron, can you fix this? Can you do it for us? And they don't.
Right.
It just blows my mind.
Yeah, and I agree. And, Kevin, I said last week when we saw Ty Montgomery and Clinton Dix, I got to say Clinton Dix again.
As many times as we can say Clinton Dix, let's try it.
Too many times you say it. When we saw them leave last week, I think you also said goodbye to Mike McCarthy. I think this is the end of the Mike McCarthy era, and I think this game just solidified that. As much as the game Monday night solidified the end of the Jason Garrett era, I think this game solidified Mike McCarthy. I just don't see how they make the playoffs. They're 3-5, 3-5-1.
3-4-1, I think.
3-4-1.
Yeah.
I don't know how they make the playoffs with Carolina and Atlanta surging like they are. It's going to be really, really tough for them to come back. They're hurting. Randall Cobb may not play for another 2 or 3 weeks. They just put
Geronimo Allison on the IR.
Yeah,
they're
they're really in a tough way. The offensive line is not doing what it's just tough. They can't run the ball successfully, and so I think it's time for McCarthy. He's gone.
The writing's on the wall.
Last comment I'll say, and I've said it before, I'm not a Belichick fan, but how brilliant is this? Not only is it brilliant to put Cordarrelle Patterson in the backfield from a coaching standpoint to give you some advantages from a playability, he saved himself 1 or 2 roster spots from going out and grabbing a free agent running back while Sony Michel is out for a couple of weeks.
Instead of wasting that roster spot on Gillislee or whoever else.
Hey, let's just put Cordarrelle Patterson back there, and him and James White will scheme it to where they'll be successful. That is so brilliant. Now, he probably sits there. He's not worried about the Packers. He's watched film, and so and last week he's not worried about. But who did they play last week? I forget now. But they weren't worried about either one of those games.
Okay,
Cordarrelle Patterson's back there. He'll probably do it one more week so that Sony Michel can go through the bye week, so that Rob Gronkowski can go through the bye week. They're going to come out smelling like a rose in week 12 with all guns blazing, gunning for the number 1 spot in the AFC. Just an amazing, that's just another way that Belichick is a fucking genius to put Cordarrelle Patterson back there in the backfield. And I hate it, but you know what? Hats off.
You got to give the man his due.
Well, that's the difference between the difference between. Well, there's a lot, but between him and the head coach of the Cowboys, I don't even want to say his name right now. But
it's a time warp, man. But it's like Jason Garrett is back there coaching Holy Cross, and Bill Belichick is coaching Florida State. Man, oh god,
it may be a detriment to his personal life, but Bill Belichick lives and breathes football, so like he needs to figure out a way to get Cordarrelle Patterson running back. I bet they spent
a
ton of time getting him familiar with the
Bill
playbook.
Belichick's girlfriend/wife. He's not hurting in his personal life.
No,
he's
maybe that's all them trophies. He just shows him the trophies.
He's a pig.
So, before we head out of here, Mike Reese put out the stat of the day. So you mentioned Gronkowski, and in the 2 games that Rob Gronkowski has not played this season, the Patriots have won both and scored a total of Rob Gronkowski's favorite number, 69 points. So, nice little stat there for Rob.
There you go. Hey, okay, so I got one more story before we leave. We got to get this out. Okay, I don't know if y'all saw the pregame before Monday night. Lisa Saunders was out there interviewing Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones had one of the greatest quotes I've ever heard.
Oh,
okay. So hopefully I can get this right. So she's talking to Jerry. They're talking about Amari Cooper and what are the advantages. And so Jerry says, number 1, we've never had a receiver like this. He puts things, he does things on the field we can. But number 2, we can do so many other things when he has his balls in his hands. Go back and look at it. He says when he's got his balls in his hands. And Lisa looks at him like, did this guy really just say that? I mean, go back and
poor Jerry. He's getting old. He's probably had one too many Johnny Walkers. He was a little, he was like Joe Namath. I just want to kiss you, and he just let slip of the tongue.
And the ironic part of it, since Cooper only got like 6 targets, he really was standing around with his balls in his hands. It was
luckily
amazing.
He has a really good role model. If that's what he's good at, he can just watch his head coach because his head coach does that all for 60 minutes a game. So
I just love that quote. And it's just great. If you can go back and look at that, it was like 5 minutes before the game started. It's Lisa's heart. It's just awesome. And her eyes, she's trying not to roll them in the back of her head or her start laughing. It's just hilarious. Just hilarious.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this week's episode. Like we said, get on MyBookie. Real quick, Tone, do you have a MyBookie lock of the week? Do you have one?
I don't have a lock this week. I believe that I'm trying to think who is a 17-point favorite. Somebody's a 17-point favorite.
I think the Rams are a big favorite over the
Cardinals.
I think it's Cardinals. Yeah, I think they're by 16.5 or 17 points.
Yeah, and that's at the Cardinals. That's a
Would you
tough
do it?
one to cover. I might be on the Cardinals that week, but I'll tell you this: wherever the Panthers are and whatever the Panthers have got, take them. They're hot.
Panthers,
Cardinals and the Chiefs.
Cardinals and the Chiefs. Definitely
Okay.
take the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That 17 plus 7, because is that at Arrowhead?
Is the bottom team, I would assume so.
Yeah.
I think the bottom team is the home team on
Yeah,
these.
so if it's
I
at
believe
Arrowhead,
it is.
there's a possibility they could cover that. But wow.
Yes, at Kansas City.
I guess, though, if you took Alabama in the spread this weekend, you're feeling pretty good because they trounced LSU at home. Shut them out.
Oh, yeah.
Carolina's got a great what's the Carolina line?
Steelers are minus 6.5 at home against the Panthers. They are 6.5-point favorites.
Panthers all over the Panthers.
All right,
Bet the
there we go.
mortgage on the Panthers.
There we go.
Steelers are minus 6.5.
Minus 6.5. Minus 6.5 at home. There we go.
People are
There's your
believing-
MyBookie
oh, no.
lock of the week from Uncle Tony
No.
himself. Bet your
Yeah.
mortgage.
Take the
put the
Panthers.
house down. Put your car note down.
Put the house down 6.5.
Go in there. Put your the promo code JPP in MyBookie. Get a 100% return on your investment, and then double that return on your investment by just putting $100 down on the lock of the week. Steelers minus 6.5. Take the Panthers underdog. I love it. All right.
Woo. Hell yeah, that's a nice.
This is only for entertainment
for
purposes.
entertainment purposes only. That's
Throw
right.
the
This
pink
is for
slip
entertainment
down.
purposes only.
All right, that'll do it for another week of the JPP pod. We will be back next week with two more episodes. So, peace out.
Peace.
Hey, look, I got me a fancy thing now so I can hold my olives.
Ooh, look how special he is.
That is special, I see. What are the olives soaking in? Vodka. Velvet vodka. With just a touch. Just a touch. We probably ought to get started. Yeah, it should be good. The F-bombs will come later.
About the end of that drink, we might catch an F-bomb.
Yeah, we'll take the end of it. Just a couple here.
It depends how quick we get to the Cowboys, probably.
Yeah. Oh, man. I'm going to drop one on you.
All right, are you guys ready? To roll?
My God, Woodrow, don't I look ready?
Oh, yeah, we do need to get a clap. All right, when I get to 0, I'm going to count
It's
down
Kevin
to
who
0.
can't do it. It's Kevin who can't do it. Who goes to
3,
0? It's only 3, 2, 1, you clap.
1, 0.